We ready?
For the next 12 hours, all crime is legal. Emergency services will be unavailable.
We'll be fine just like always.
Your government thanks you for your participation.
Anybody tries to come in, you blast them. The Purge.
Just remember all the good the Purge does.
Rated R.
Yes, just think about it, because we sure as shit aren't going to tell you what the Purge means in the first film. Yeah, that's going to take a couple films down the road, that next film, to tell you what the Purge does, because literally all they say about the Purge in this movie is that it just works. The Purge works. Okay, how does it work? It just works. Like, we'll touch on that as we go along here, but welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films that make up June 7th, 2013, and we are starting off with The Purge. Set in the year 2022, wow, that got dated real quickly, because, yeah, clearly we do not have what happens in this movie, but the film stars Ethan Hawke, Lena Headey, Adelaide Kane, and Max Burkholder as members of a wealthy family who find themselves endangered by a gang of murderers during the annual Purge, a night during which all crime, including murder, is temporarily legal. And the concept overall is really good. It's a really intriguing concept overall. The biggest problem with this film in general, as I kind of touched on a little bit earlier, was the fact that they never really explain why the Purge is supposed to work overall. And, you know, the whole context of this movie basically is that don't go outside for the next 12 hours at nighttime. So it's just like, okay, let's all go to sleep then. It's just like, keep the doors locked, have all the security locked down. We'll see y'all tomorrow morning. I mean, in any other reality, that's what this movie would be about. But no, somebody sees one of the security guards, somebody in the house sees somebody trying to get to the door. They open them up for him, and then that's when all the murderers come out there. And yeah, it's a very intense film at times, but it's a movie that has a lot of polarizing views to it. Some people like it, some people hate it. I kind of felt the same. I kind of felt like I was kind of in the middle of it. I was kind of split on it. I thought the premise overall was a good idea, but the acting overall is good. But it's the fact that all this trouble could have been prevented had this kid not let this one guy into the house. And again, it could have had a better plot to work with overall, a better examination of the plot, I should say. And again, it doesn't explain why the Purge is supposed to do exactly what it's supposed to do. Again, that's going to take the next couple of films afterwards to get to that, the explanation of that. But I mean, once we get to the next couple of movies, that's when the series really begins its turnaround, because it really starts with the next movie, The Purge: Anarchy, and then it continues afterwards with Election Year, and then the first Purge, and then the Forever Purge, which this series overall is very good. It says a lot when the first movie that's supposed to start this off usually is the strongest part of this series, but this was actually the weakest one, because every film that comes after it overall is really good and really does give you a better explanation of what the Purge is supposed to do and how there's both pros and cons to the whole thing, but mostly the cons. But yeah, I think this is an okay movie. It's not a great film overall, but it definitely is a film that has a lot of potential to it and really will show it in the next couple of movies going forward. But this is definitely the weakest one of the series, mostly because they never really give a clear explanation of why the Purge works. It just tells you it just works. Just go with it. It's just like, no, you kind of have to explain the whole situation. But again, they'll say that for the movies going forward. But for this one, a very mixed bag of a film. But like I said, it's not a bad movie. It just needs a better explanation of what the Purge is supposed to do for the people that are stuck inside their houses, and you know what it's supposed to do for these criminals. Because basically, yeah, you get 12 hours once a year to do whatever you want in terms of crimes and all that. And yeah, it doesn't lead to. In this one, it doesn't really explain what it can do. But like I said, wait until we get later on in the series. They'll explain it, and yeah, it's pretty much better than what they do here in this first film overall. So, good movie, not a great film, but yeah, mixed opinion on that one. So. Now, let's go ahead and get to what is easily the worst movie of the weekend, and again, another candidate for one of the worst movies of the year. Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn starring in The Internship.
I defy you to crush this course and not get psyched out of your mind.
I'm gonna have some bags. Only got $20 in my pocket.
The Chrono Shock 13.
They didn't tell you, did they? Your company is closed.
You closed the company?
Everything's computerized now.
People have a deep mistrust of machines. Have you seen Terminator?
Yep.
Or 2? Or 3? Or 4?
All of them.
not a job. It's an interview for an internship that could lead to a job. Nick, this might be the last chance that we got. Come in here. You gotta come in closer. We won't be able to see you. See how small the webcam is? No, get you to the cheek.
We can see you guys. Okay, great. You got us? Hi, my name is Billy.
We can hear you fine as well.
Oh, great.
That is literally the entire movie. Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn are too old, and they don't realize that you need to use computers in 2013 because we're too lazy. We're too old to figure that out. Haha, laugh at that. It's funny. No, it's not. It is not funny at all, and it just keeps going on and on and on throughout the course of the entire movie. This is one of the stupidest movies I have ever seen in my entire life, and you can see why it is one of the worst movies of the year, easily. So you have Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson starring as recently laid-off salesmen who attempt to compete with much younger and more technically skilled applicants for a job at Google. No, I'm sorry, not a job at Google, an internship at Google. You know, like I said, the biggest problem with this movie is that Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn are in their 40s. They're way too old to be doing a movie like this. And it doesn't help that the comedy is just fucking awful. All the comedy is that all people over the age of 40 don't know how to use computers. And, you know, that's the whole crux of this movie. And this is just a terrible, terrible movie. This is a terrible comedy. It's everything that's wrong with comedies in this movie. The jokes are terrible because they're predictable and unfunny. It's that lame comedy they use in a lot of commercials, you know, the lazy humor that actually thinks it's being clever and all that when it's really not. I'm sorry, Geico commercials are not that funny, except for when the lizard is on the screen. But other than that, Geico commercials are not that funny. Neither is the Progressive commercials outside of Flow. Like, we get stupid cliches that need to stop being in this movie, and they keep showing up in a film like this. There's nothing about this movie that's worthwhile or funny whatsoever. This is a lousy, lousy movie that is just so... It feels like it was written by people who have no idea what is... It feels like people that are over the age of 40 that have no idea what young people are like, because that's what it really feels like. Again, it feels like comedy written for a bad commercial, and it's not that this is made by hacks either. The co-writer of this is Jared Stern, who 1 year later will write the Lego Movie, one of the best movies of the decade. It's directed by Sean Levy. Sean Levy is somebody who I consider to be one of those comfort food directors, like a guy like a Peter Siegel or an Adam Shakeman. He'll make movies that may not be great most of the time, but they're fun, entertaining movies. I mean, if I had to pick the worst thing this guy's ever done, this is probably it right here. I mean, this is a guy that made movies that are not great, but still fun films overall, like Big Fat Liar, Just Married, Cheaper by the Dozen, the Steve Martin Pink Panther movie, the Night at the Museum films, Date Night, Real Steel, films we've touched on the show. We're gonna get to some other good ones too, like This Is Where I Leave You, Free Guy, The Atom Project, Deadpool and Wolverine. I mean, Sean Levy does not make a lot of bad movies. This is the worst thing he's ever directed, and it's clear that even a guy like him can't save this movie in general here. And Vince Vaughn had a hand in the writing of the script of this. Yeah? Again, kind of like what happened with Couples Retreat, which was also not a good movie, but at least Couples Retreat was trying to be funny. At least there was an effort being put in there. This really does feel like a movie where Vince Vaughn's old age started to come out on him. It's just like, you do not feel like Vince Vaughn put his best work into this movie in general. Here, this is the Vince Vaughn of The Watch a year ago, and it's just... which, coincidentally, all three of these guys worked on, and that was not a great movie overall either. But at least, again, that one was at least trying to be funny. It at least had some effort and a creative idea behind it. The creative idea behind this is that old people don't know how to use computers and all that. We don't know how to work at Google. Like, you cannot tell me that there are people that are over the age of 40 that work at Google. Anyone out there from Google who's watching this right now, you know anybody that works there is over the age of 40 and is capable of actually working on a computer? Yeah. I don't even need to talk to these people to know that that's the case. Is that people over 40 know how to use computers and know how to use Google. It's just like, this whole movie makes no fucking sense at all. This is one of the worst comedies I have ever seen in my life. It's lazy, it's not funny, it exists for one joke that isn't even funny to begin with. This is a definition of a terrible, terrible comedy. One of the worst comedies I've ever seen in my entire life. One of the worst movies of the decade. Easily one of the worst movies of the year. I think you get the point. The Internship fucking sucks. So after all that, let's go ahead and get to our last one that we have here. This is a much better movie, and that is Joss Whedon's adaptation of William Shakespeare's Much Ado About Nothing.
By this hand, I love thee.
For we are the only love gods.
I want you to get together.
So yeah, this is a very interesting follow-up project for Joss Whedon, coming off of a blockbuster hit in the Avengers. Hey, that's kind of the fun of it all. Like, he gets to do something that is so unique and different that nobody's really expecting to be that great, and lo and behold, he got it right here. This is, of course, based off of William Shakespeare's classic play, which is largely unchanged from that of the original play in this movie, except the fact that it's a modern-day setting, and you have a story here where Leonato, played by Clark Gregg, the governor of Messina, who's visited by his friend Don Pedro, played by Reed Diamond, who's returning from a victorious campaign against his rebellious brother Don Juan, played by Sean Mayer. Accompanying Don Pedro are two of his officers, Benedict, played by Alexis Denisov, and Claudio, played by Fran Kranz. I don't know if I'm even getting these names right, but that's what I'm reading off of IMDb. While in Messina, Claudio falls for Leonato's daughter, Hero, played by Gillian Morgese, while Benedict verbally spars with Beatrice, played by Amy Acker, the governor's niece. The budding love between Claudio and Hero prompts Don Pedro to arrange with Leonato for a marriage. In the days leading up to the ceremony, Don Pedro, with the help of Leonato, Claudio, and Hero, attempt to sport with Benedict and Beatrice in an effort to trick the two into falling in love. Meanwhile, the villainous Don John, with the help of his allies Conrad, played by Ricky Lindholm, and Baraccio, played by Spencer Treat Clark, plot against the happy couple using his own form of trickery to try to destroy the marriage before it begins. A series of comic and tragic events may continue to keep the two couples from truly finding happiness, but then again, perhaps love may prevail. The interesting thing about this movie is that this was only shot in 12 days at Whedon's home. And for a movie that was only shot within 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks, in the home of Joss Whedon, it's actually very well done. This is actually one of my favorite movies that came out that year, in 2013. I thought Joss Whedon did a very good job of adapting the Shakespeare play to a modern setting and making changes that made sense to the storyline overall, giving it a very funny, modernized take of the tale that had been previously adapted before. We covered one of these versions back in 1993 with Denzel Washington and Emma Thompson, which was okay, but which was a good movie. Nothing too spectacular, but This is what makes Joss Whedon so great as a filmmaker. He can take something that's been done before, make it its own unique thing, and the cast does a very good job of working with it. It's a lot of his regulars, and you can still tell that he has a lot of good chemistry with all of them all together. And it's running at a very good pace. It doesn't. You never really get the sense that you're sitting there for almost 2 hours long, and it doesn't feel like the movie is forcing you to stick with it. You know, it's giving you a good story that you want to stick around for. I think it's a movie, honestly, that's a very niche film, and one that's definitely going to be very polarizing to people who don't know about Joss Whedon's work overall. You either love it for what he does for it by adapting the play to modern times, or you hate it because you won't get the original concept behind the original play, because unfortunately, not a lot of people give Shakespeare the proper respect he deserves as a writer in today's world, especially nowadays, but I personally really enjoyed the hell out of this movie. The way that Whedon manages to put this together quickly and makes for a very good, well-casted, and entertaining take on the storyline here. It is definitely one of the year's best movies, easily, and one you should definitely check out if you haven't seen it already. Seek out Joss Whedon's Much Ado About Nothing. You will not be disappointed by that at all.
You will help them accomplish wonders.
Oh, I know some of you have been waiting for me to get to this movie. Well, guess what? That time has finally come, and yeah, chances are you're going to be extremely disappointed by what I have to say about it. But welcome to Time About the Movies, everybody. Today we are taking a look at the 5 films that make up June 14th, 2013, and we're starting off with the biggest new release, and that is, of course, Man of Steel. This was, of course, the rebooted attempt to bring Superman into the movies to a new generation of people. And unlike Superman Returns, which came out 7 years prior, which was a much better movie, this was clearly being made because Warner Brothers desperately needed to keep the rights to Superman. They had to get a movie in production by 2011, and they said, Zack Snyder, we know you made your worst movie ever, but come on over to Man of Steel, man. Help us keep Superman in the WB family. And this was the end result of that. I mean, that's quite literally why this movie got made, was because of that. But, yeah, Man of Steel. So this is a reboot of the Superman film series where you have the character's origin story, this time being played by Henry Cavill, who for a number of years have been trying to get all these big movie parts. He was up for Twilight, he was up for James Bond at one point, he didn't get any of those. He landed the role of Superman, and the results are definitely mixed, to say the least. But you also have Amy Adams as Lois Lane, Michael Shannon as General Zod, Diane Lane as Martha Kent, Kevin Costner as Jonathan Kent, Lawrence Fishburne as Perry White, and Russell Crowe as Jor-El. And when this movie came out, we witnessed a rare event in movie criticism where this is one of those rare movies that has no real wrong answer in how you think about the film. There's people who love it, who have legitimate reasons about why it's good, and then there are people who have legitimate reasons of why it's bad and hate it. And yeah, which end of the spectrum am I on, per se? I'm kind of on the side of the people that like the movie, but I do recognize that it's got a lot of problems. It's a lot like Superman Returns. It's got flaws to it, but I still enjoy the hell out of that movie more than Man of Steel, certainly. But Zack Snyder thankfully puts aside his traditional directing styles and gives Superman maybe not the best start to relaunch this with, but at least signs of a promising future for the Man of Steel in terms of movies, or so we thought, but I'll touch on that later on. But I did like what they did with Amy Adams in this movie. Lawrence Fishburne I thought was pretty good as Perry White. Michael Shannon, pretty fun overall as General Zod, although definitely he's no Terrence Stamp. You know, Kevin Costner overall, like, I'll give it this. Like, some of the things he said are kind of a bit much, but to his credit, he does give his all in this movie, and he has some of the more thought-provoking moments of the film in general. There's some stuff in there that's kind of stupid, we'll touch on here, but one of the big surprises in here was how good Russell Crowe was. I mean, I thought he was actually really good as Jor-El. I thought he was one of the stronger parts of the movie, and it made me forget that he can't, and it makes you totally forget that the dude can't sing to save his life in general, if you just saw Les Miserables. But even people that don't usually get talked about all that much, like Zod's sub-commander, Fayora, played by Anjay Traou, was actually one of the better female villains I've ever seen. Like, the thing about her that makes her more intriguing is that she does more villainous things than something like Maria Cotillard did with The Dark Knight Rises as Talia al Ghul. Like, she was much better than Al Ghul was in Dark Knight Rises. She was actually menacing. She showed no mercy. And, you know, I mean, it's something where, it's just definitely something where it's much better than how they did in The Dark Knight Rises. I mean, no question about it. I mean, you know, the big thing with the big problem I have with The Dark Knight Rises was the fact that she became a villain in the last 3 minutes of her time on screen for no reason whatsoever. No, you found more threatening things out of Fayora than you did with Al Ghul. I'll just say that. But I do like that there was no third act twist because, yeah, we had gotten to this point in the summer of 2013 where every single blockbuster had to have a third act twist in it, and sometimes it started off promisingly and ended up being terrible. Other times it was just bad from the get-go, and this one definitely does that. It doesn't do that per se, so I was glad to see that. I thought Hans Zimmer's score overall was pretty good, for the most part. I'll touch on some of the other things I didn't like, and I'll start off with some of the things I really didn't like. For one thing, the product placement was ridiculous. It was like all over the place in this movie, like Nikon cameras, IHOP, 7-Eleven. Fucking Sears had a promotional push in this movie. Like, Sears was making a big deal that they were in this movie in their ads, and he gets into a fight and crashes. Superman gets into a fight and crashes into a Sears. That's it. It's a minute-long scene, and they make it a big deal like Superman and Sears are working together, like Sears is the hot shit, which turns out it's not going to be the only summer 2013 blockbuster that's going to have Sears as one of its major tie-ins. We'll get to the other one, which, okay, it's not really a blockbuster, but it is a big sequel with Grown Ups 2 having another big Sears push. Like, Sears was really in the final days of its existence at this point. So yeah, for them to have this big push makes no sense whatsoever, but I digress. The first two acts, I think, are the strongest part of it, and the third act overall is great and epic, but it leaves without Superman, leaves out explaining how Superman became the good guy again. Like, literally, the last 5 minutes of the movie almost ruined the entire movie because it ends with the city in ruins. Millions of people are probably dead, and we don't know how the public feels about Superman at this point, and they never explain it. The last 5 minutes are so rushed. We just have this huge climax, and it just wraps up real quickly for no reason. It's like Star Trek Into Darkness again. But, like, it's just, it was like that for a lot of movies. Like Star Trek Into Darkness, I mentioned. Iron Man 3 had that. The film also takes a new approach to the Superman universe and completely redoes it with a lot of the Superman story. A lot of the changes I like, but the things I didn't like are definitely there. The things I liked that Lois Lane knew who Superman really was from the get-go. They don't pull out the cop-out bullshit where Lois doesn't know who Clark really is. And I like the fact that Lois knows what Superman is. That's what made her feel like... That's what I liked about her in this movie, because she can help Superman become that hero we know he's going to become. It's like in Oz the Great and Powerful, where you have Glinda the Good Witch knowing that Oz is not really a wizard, but she doesn't mistrust him in any way, shape, or form, because she knows that he could be a better person for the Wizard of Oz in general. But I like that Superman isn't just the good guy who never kills. He's got to kill somebody, and he can't let him go. He has no choice. He's got to kill him. I know the big controversy is the fact that he kills Zod at the end. It's just like, yeah, he doesn't have a choice because Zod is literally going to kill these people if he doesn't do that. And it's just kind of like, yeah, you see that Superman doesn't want to do it, but there was no other option to it. And in that case, I was able to give him a pass on that one. I also like the fact that even though Jor-El is dead, he can still help Kal-El with the ways of the world through this device that he left with him. And he even helps Lois Lane out, which I actually thought was pretty cool that they were able to put that in there. Some of that stuff I thought was pretty good. There was a lot of things I really didn't like about it. Like, I didn't like the fact that, you know, they did a gender reversal on Jenny Olsen, which turned out to be BS, because literally in the next movie, Dawn of Justice, they have Jimmy Olsen in there only for him to get killed off in the beginning of it. But yeah, that didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. I didn't like the fact that they talked about how the Kents found... They didn't even talk about how the Kents found Kal-El. He's just kind of there. Like, they don't show him crashing the rocket. They just glance over it like he's a student at school. It's just like, you're redoing this whole story. Bring him in there. Like, bring that part in there. Like, say why... give us at least somewhat of an origin story. You don't have to do, like, a long version of it. Just, you know, do what you did. It's like... I'll explain how one Superman movie that did it a whole lot better. I think you know which one I'm talking about here. As much as I love Kevin Costner in this movie, the tornado scene is one of the most stupidest things I have ever seen in my life. It has the potential to be a good scene in general, but it is so poorly done. The tornado looks fake. Costner's acting in the scene is so terrible. And just the scene where Clark's going to rescue him and Costner goes like, no, I'm willing to sacrifice myself. And it's just like, I'm thinking, dude, you could go ahead and save him. We know that this dude can move faster than a speeding bull. It's just like, you can grab him under the bridge in 2 seconds flat, but then it's just like, no, let me do this because I need to die so you can be a better superhero. It's just like, they're not making any sense by doing that. Not at all. And Henry Cavill, the guy is proven to be a great actor, but I'm sorry, I hate his Superman so much. He comes off more as a douchebag than the other interpretations have done. Like, he knows he's the most powerful human being on the face of the planet. In those early scenes when Superman's on Earth, he just comes off as the ultimate dickhead. But as the film progresses, he does slowly but surely become more that character. But I just can't help the fact that he had this stubborn look on his face, like, yes, I know I'm better than you, and I'm not willing to apologize for that. The biggest change I hated about the movie is the theme. Like, I understand you not wanting to use the Superman John Williams theme and want to do something new and different, but, like, they didn't use the Danny Elfman Batman theme in the Nolan Batman movies. I'm fine with that, because Hans Zimmer did a pretty good job at it. And he's doing this, but you really could have come up with a better theme than this. I mean, it's a good theme, but it doesn't scream out Superman. When John Williams does the Superman theme, you can literally hear the words coming out of the music in general here. And with Zimmer, he does a good job with the score overall, but it's not an epic piece of music like Williams' score is. I mean, this should be something on the level of a Superman theme. I mean, the Superman theme should be epic on a grand scale. I mean, look what Al Silvestri did with the Avengers. Like, that's a great theme, and he's one of my favorite composers of all time, and that's one of the reasons why I really do like him a lot. I mean, it's just, there's just so many problems with this movie in general here. Compare this to The Amazing Spider-Man from the year before. I think it did everything wrong. I think Amazing Spider-Man, everything that movie did wrong, this one did most of it right. I mean, they're not stealing things from the much better Batman movies. They aren't making it dark for the sake of being dark. The villain's main plan isn't a lazy plan. The relationships don't seem forced. The movie overall doesn't feel like a cash cow by somebody that clearly had a problem with what Sam Raimi was doing with the Spider-Man movies beforehand. It does feel like a movie where you could see the effort being put in there. And as much as Zack Snyder is somebody that doesn't like Superman, you could see that in this one he was at least trying. And while not everything about it works, I do enjoy it. It's not Batman Begins, it's not Star Trek, but it was a good beginning to what I think a lot of people were thinking was going to be bigger and better things for Superman. From the direction, the good acting, the impressive action sequences, the over-the-top third act finale. It's a flawed film, but I gave points for it for the stuff that worked. And then, of course, we know what happened after that with the Snyderverse movies and how it just got worse and worse and worse, with a couple of exceptions here and there that were actually high points. But yeah, it was never as good as the potential that it could have been. And it took 12 years later for James Gunn to really show you what this movie should have been all the way through. Yeah, James Gunn killed the Snyderverse with one Superman movie earlier this year. And yeah, it's the best. It's one of the best movies of the year. And it's easily what Man of Steel as a whole should have been. As it is, half of it's good, half of it's bad. But yeah, it's fine for what it is. But it definitely screams out so much more that could have been done with this. So that's all I got to say about that one. That is Man of Steel. So get your hate comments in there, Snyderverse lovers. I know you want to do that, but I'm sorry, I'm not changing my thoughts on this. But let's go ahead though and try to move on to our next movie here. Try to move on to our next movie. But next movie here, This Is the End.
It's too late for you. You're already in the hole. Ow! I tried to save a disease. I tried.
Everyone gets a fifth of everything.
I want 1/5 of your t-shirt, the bottom part.
You couldn't handle my midriff.
Turn me to group. I'm like DMX, man. You can't stop, drop, and open up shop alone.
This is the end. Rated R.
Which I'm willing to believe is that what a lot of Snyder fans want me to say. This is the end, but no, we still have a long, long way to go here, folks. This is the end. This is the apocalyptic comedy starring Seth Rogen, James Franco, Jay Baruchel, Jonah Hill, Danny McBride, Craig Robinson, and a plethora of celebrity cameos in here. I mean, you have a movie that basically starts off as a celebrity orgy pretty much, but you have James Franco hosting a house party in his home in California, and basically the end of the world happens, and all this craziness happens across the board. You have all these different celebrities like Rihanna, Michael Cera, Jason Segel, Kevin Hart, Aziz Ansari, among many others in the initial part of the film, and then they all get killed off when the apocalypse happens, and so the main six have to face off against demons and other mythical creatures that are out to kill them as the apocalypse happens. And in a summer where a lot of big blockbusters start off great and then just fall apart in the third act, I'm happy to report that This Is the End is the movie that makes me say all is not lost, because this definitely is the most fun I've had with a movie so far this summer. It's the best it's the best, most original comedy I've seen since Ted, and it works because hey, you've got a cast that includes a lot of funny people in it. Seth Rogen and his buddies work well together here. They should have said they've been friends in real life, and basically are doing what Adam Sandler and his crew have failed to do with the more recent films they've done, especially the Grown Ups movies, which we'll touch on Grown Ups 2 in the not too distant future. But you also have to wonder if this is pretty much how these guys would really react if the apocalypse actually did happen, which I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of did. The comedy, I think, is really good. There's a lot of great self-referential jokes at the actors themselves, and it does not feel forced whatsoever, or just thrown in there because the hell with it. It feels very genuine. Not only does the comedy work, the creature designs and the makeup on this is impressive. When you see the creatures in this movie, it looks like something that could actually happen, which is amazing to look at. Yeah, it's made with a computer, the big demon at the end, but it does not look fake at all. They did a very good job of making this look authentic and making it seem like that we are going to make this look as real as it could possibly be. Again, this was a movie that only cost a very short amount of money to make, $30 million overall. And it does not feel like that. It feels like they spent a lot more on it, but no, behold, it actually works overall. And kind of like with Man of Steel, which was everything that Amazing Spider-Man failed to be the year before, this is what The Watch should have been like last year. This is the thing that, this is the end, is the movie that the watch wishes it could be. Make a high-concept comedy with impressive visuals, good solid laughs, and not only does that succeed in that, it's also one of the best written and laugh-out-loud comedies I've had in a long, long time. The very end, when Whitney Houston's I Will Always Love You from The Bodyguard starts playing, the first time I saw that, I was laughing my ass off, because it's just like, the scene itself is just so pitch perfect, and just a perfect way to end that movie, man. This was a fun movie. This is easily my favorite movie of the summer up to that point, and it's really hard not to see why. It is a really, really great film. I can't recommend this puppy enough. This is the end. Terrific, terrific stuff. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie here, and that is Sofia Coppola's latest film, The Bling Ring.
To be a part of the lifestyle. Why chase fame when you can steal it?
Let's go shopping.
Based on actual events.
Did you get a new dress?
Police are investigating the Hollywood Hills burglaries.
Superb, dazzling, brilliant.
I want to lead a country one day for all I know.
The Bling Ring, in cinemas July 5th.
So this is based off of the Vanity Fair article. The subject wears Louis Vuittons by Nancy Jo Sales, which delves into a real-life gang known as the Bling Ring, and follows a group of fame-obsessed teenagers who use the internet to track celebrities' whereabouts to burgle their homes. And you have a cast that also includes Emma Watson, Thaisa Farmiga, the older sister of Vera Farmiga, Leslie Mann, Israel Broussard, Katie Chang, and, you know, this is a movie where Sofia Coppola returns to a form that had been kind of lost on the last movie she made, Somewhere, which was not a bad movie, but definitely felt more like a mainstream movie. This feels like it's returning to what Sofia Coppola can do as the director's whole and make it work. This is a really good movie overall, and it works because of the acting overall. The storytelling is very well done. I really like the casting of Emma Watson here. This is one of her. I think this was one of her big first outings as an actress, as a leading actress outside of the Harry Potter movies. I think that was what it was. If it wasn't that, it was definitely early on in that, but it's a chance to really show what she can do as a whole, and she makes it work in general here. She really is the strongest part of this movie. It can get a little preachy at times, too, and a little bit pretentious for its own good, but the overall fun factor of it does work very well, and Coppola really does deliver everything she needs to deliver to make this story entertaining all across the board, and I enjoy it, man. I thought it was a very good film overall. I think it was very entertaining. Definitely one worth checking out if you haven't seen it. The Bling Ring is one I definitely recommend checking out. So that's The Bling Ring. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie that we have here, and that is the documentary 20 Feet from Stardom. So this is essentially a documentary looking at the lives of background singers for various artists and performers, and that's the inspiration for the making of the film, using archival footage, new interviews, detailing the behind-the-scenes experiences for backup singers for people like Darlene Love, and actually, Darlene Love was one of the backup singers. Mary Clayton, Lisa Fisher, Tata Vega, and one of the more notable ones is Judith Hill, who, if you remember from Michael Jackson's This Is It, she was the backup singer for Michael Jackson. She also did a lot for Prince, and also, who else did she do it for? She did Josh Groban, too. But, yeah, this is directed by Morgan Neville, who would later go on to direct the Mr. Rogers documentary, Won't You Be My Neighbor? And more recently, he directed one of my favorite movies from last year, Piece by Piece. So they got a really good director here overall, and it's a really engaging documentary overall that does give you this really good backstory behind all these people who make a living out of doing the backup singing for these notable artists in general here. I mean, you see it all across the board here. You see, like, archival footage of people like Ike and Tina Turner, Luther Vandross, David Letterman, Elton John, Kylie Minogue, Ray Charles, David Bowie. The cast also includes Bruce Springsteen in there, Sting, just Stevie Wonder, you know, a lot of notable names in here that you should be very familiar with if you follow music in general, and it's a really good documentary overall. It's not too long. It's only about an hour and a half long, and it does deliver everything you want to see in a documentary like this. That ended up winning Best Documentary Feature 23 years after another documentary that was kind of similar, In the Shadow of Stars, which was also kind of the same thing, except this time with an opera chorus, won that exact same award. So that was kind of intriguing overall to see that, but yeah, this is a really entertaining film. It's a really good documentary in general, and one that I do recommend checking out. It's definitely worth a watch. 20 Feet from Stardom. So with all that said, let's go ahead and move on to our last movie that we have here. A very weird oddity of a film, to say the least. And even if you were a fan of Friendship is Magic, the TV show back then, needless to say, you had a lot of question marks about My Little Pony Equestria Girls.
I am excited, but I'm a little nervous too. Twilight!
You'll soon know more about this place than even I do.
What am I?
Whoa, you okay?
You must be new here. My magic isn't working. My name's Kelly Sparkle and Pinkie Pie? You're officially up for the coveted princess of the fall formal crown.
Where is this Twilight Sparkle?
That's not a real word, right?
So yeah, believe it or not, this was actually kind of extremely controversial for the bronies back then, because they didn't realize that they realized that the show that they somehow fell in love with Friendship is Magic, you know, it was basically a girls' toy line, and this is basically My Little Pony meets Bratz pretty much, because they do kind of look like the Bratz dolls in general here, but. In terms of Friendship is Magic, like I've touched on this a couple of times in the other videos and on the website, that I was a fan of I am a fan of the show in general. I really mostly came into it because of the people behind the scenes. You know, Lauren Foss from the Powerpuff Girls, Dexter's Laboratory. You know, one of the main people behind it in general. That's how I kind of came into it, and it really is a good show overall. I don't think I would consider myself a brony per se, like I did like a lot of people were back then, but. I still enjoyed it for what it was. It was one of those shows that made the Hub so special when it came out. That and Dan Versus. But, of course, now the Hub is just Discovery Family, a.k.a. the leftovers for Warner Brothers, pretty much. But then you have this movie here, which takes place after the end of the show's third season, where you have Twilight Sparkle, voiced by Tara Strong, being sent to the human world to recover her magical crown after it's stolen by a bitter sunset shimmer. And while learning how to behave as a human, she comes to befriend the human counterparts of her pony friends, and with their help stop Sunset and recover the crown. So, a plot that's very much a fish-out-of-water storyline, to say the least. Except this time, it's basically Twilight doing the same thing she did in the first episode of the original show, except this time she's got to do it with these human characters, which... Yeah, it does seem very repetitive in general here, and there was a lot of criticism and controversy about it. All the word of mouth had been like, oh, how's this going to work out? It's just like, oh, this is too much even for me, and it's just like, it's not that bad. It's okay. There's nothing really spectacular about this. This is one of those things that was I think it was a Fathom Events, like, it wasn't Fathom Events, but it was kind of like that, where it was like something that you would see once in theaters on this. It was actually came out on a Sundays. You saw at the end there, it came out on June 16th. It's like a one-day event, so this could have been something that should have been just a TV movie and nothing that really screams out the big screen in general. And honestly, it really would have been not surprised me at all if this wasn't intended to be a theatrical release at all, and more like a TV movie on the Hub. But because the show was so big, it felt like they were obligated to put it on the big screen, which is funny because 4 years later, the actual My Little Pony, the movie based off of the show, did come out, and slightly better. At least it looked like a movie made for the big screen, but even that one doesn't have a lot of great things about it. We'll touch on that in 2017, but like I said, it's decent overall. It is kind of fun to see Twilight and Spike trying to exist in our world, and the movie as a whole is basically, like I said, a fish-out-of-water story. It's something we've seen kind of done before. The characters are the same way we come to know them as. You know, Twilight's still the bookworm. Pinkie Pie's still the party animal. Fluttershy's the shy one. Rarity's the fashionista. Rainbow Dash is the adrenaline junkie. Applejack's the country girl. They basically are that, except they're humans now. And they are what kind of hold the movie together, because the building of the friendship in there hooks you right in, and you're invested in it if you do get attached to it. I do like the little inside jokes, putting like human characters from the show. Like, you have Derpy Hooves in there, you have Photo Finish, Final Scratch. They basically mention stuff like the Grand Galloping Gala and the songs that the Cutie Mark Crusaders sing that were in the talent show. The villain, I thought, was kind of executed pretty well here. And when you see that she turns into this demonic creature, it does look kind of cool. When it comes to the series villains in general here, the only two that I ended up really kind of enjoying from the show was Sombra from the 3rd season premiere and Sunset Simmer here. Like, I mean, at the time, I was not even that big of a fan of Discord, even though he's like the big villain that everybody kind of knows from the show. That's also kind of like the good guy, too. He's basically John Delancey doing Q from Star Trek The Next Generation, except this time he's a dragon. And the villain from the Royal Wedding finale was just basically a lame retread of Ursula from The Little Mermaid, pretty much. Like, it's weird that the female ponies get possessed by demons in the show too much. Like, it's like, first it happens to Cadence in The Royal Wedding, and now Sunset Shimmer in this, but there's definitely a lot of stuff in this that is really, really pointless. Like, there's a point where the film just stops for this long, and I mean long, sequence that really could have been taken out altogether. Like, there's a part where Sunset Simmer's trying to get Twilight framed for wrecking the gym on the night of the fall formal. She gets suspended and not allowed to compete in the big competition they have by the vice principal, who is basically Twilight's mentor in the pony world, Luna, who's now a human as well. And then, not but a few seconds later, a boy that Twilight befriends, Flash Sentry, ends up falling for her, comes in and saves her by saying that she was accused, and he's got the pictures to prove it, and it's just like, oh, okay, well, you're not suspended then. Okay, well then, the big thing is that the whole scene takes place in under a minute, and it does nothing to the story, and it feels really pointless. In fact, the whole scene after that, where, you know, Twilight has to reveal to everybody that she's from another universe, and, you know, they basically have to get together to put the formal together. It's 10 minutes of the film that could have easily been cut out and left you with nothing from when it began to when it ended. And yeah, my biggest problem with that is that, you know, it just feels really pointless. And it felt like it was thrown in there to stretch the time out, because this thing is barely under an hour and a half long. I mean, it's not a long movie in general here, but even at the end of the movie, when the magic of friendship brings the main six together, and once their magic comes together, they briefly turn into pony-like humans with pony ears and tails. And it just felt like they were kind of forcing that in there. It just kind of felt like, you know, why is that even in there? What point does this play to the story in general here? And like I said, it's a decent movie. I kind of look at it the same way I did with the all-grown-up Rugrats special. It's pretty much that. Okay, but nothing spectacular. It's cool to see a different take on these characters in general, but there's nothing about this that really should have warranted a theatrical release in general here. And if a fan of the show goes into it with the right note, I think they can find some value into it overall, but this is really something that could have just gone straight to DVD in general. I mean, this is something that did not need to be seen on a big screen overall, and yeah, it's fine, but not really one of the better things to come out of the series in general. If you're going to see My Little Pony on the big screen, wait a couple of years for the My Little Pony movie to come out, which, again, not a great movie, but certainly better than what this was, so there you go. That's my thoughts on Equestria Girls. Yeah, not the greatest thing ever, but certainly not as bad as people made it out to be back then. That's for sure.
Imagine a university
where I can be unique
in a family of thousands,
Where I can love to learn.
and learn what I love.
Time for a celebration!
we'll be ready.
5, 6, 7, 8, 7, 8, turn!
James B. Sullivan.
I'm gonna be a scarer!
Whoa, were you kissing my hand?
And what about you with all your shedding?
I don't shed.
Really? Just wait, Hotshot. I'm gonna scare circles around you this year.
You're not even in the same league with me.
The MU cafeteria has some of the best chefs in the world.
Welcome to Scaring 101.
You don't need to study scaring, you just do it.
That is a good point. You might want to hang out with someone a little more your speed. Want to join Uzma Kappa? We have cake.
If you're not scary, what kind of a monster are you?
I'm Art, New Age philosophy major. Thought you might like to keep a dream journal.
Is that a joke?
The Scare Games! A super intense scaring competition!
You could totally die.
And it's worth it!
If you lose, you will leave Monsters University.
Fine! Behold, my brothers of Uzma Kappa! I have an extra toe. Not with me, of course. Let's begin the first competition!
Good luck, ladies.
Thanks! We're gonna rip you to pieces!
Tentacles and serpent's wings, they... Don't go in there!
Just reach deep down and let the scary out!
Tonight we party like scares!
I can't be late on the first day!
And welcome to Time About the Movies. Today we are taking a look at the 3 films that make up June 21st, 2013. And we start off with easily the biggest of the new releases, Monsters University from Disney and Pixar, who came off of the previous summer with a couple of summers with an underwhelming film in Cars 2, and then Brave the year before. Here they return going back to the franchises in general here, and essentially creating a much more enjoyable movie than the last couple they put out. This one, you have Mike Wazowski, played by Billy Crystal, and James P. Sullivan, voiced by John Goodman, who are an inseparable pair, but that was not always the case. From the moment these two mismatched monsters met at Monsters University, they couldn't stand each other, and this unlocks the door to how Mike and Sully overcame their differences and became the best of friends. And while it wasn't a classic by any means necessary, the first Monsters, Inc. movie is a fun movie. Its creativity, the characters, the story, the feel of it, it's definitely out in the open. They can do whatever they want with it, and they made it work. It has a good heart to it, and while it's not up there with some of Pixar's best movies, it's still an overall really good movie. But I think most people could agree, we really didn't need a prequel to this, per se, honestly. In fact, when this was coming out, a lot of people were saying, oh, it's just a cash grab for Pixar. And while I can't argue that, a prequel for this is certainly a lot better than another Cars movie after Cars 2. And, yeah, needless to say, this one definitely lived up to the hype and then some. I really enjoyed the hell out of this movie a lot. I think I actually kind of enjoyed it a little bit more than Monsters, Inc., which is hard to say, but yeah, I thought it was actually a really fun movie all across the board. Like, with a film like this is the end the week before, it doesn't pull a BS cop out at you with the third act, and it allows you to enjoy what's going on, and it lets you just go in guns blazing, pretty much. Not guns blazing in this case, but you get the idea. It's the best thing they've made since Toy Story 3, honestly. And you can see the visual look of the film is much more impressive than it was in the first film. The characters are much fun they were in the previous film. The creativity, you can see that it's coming back into play with this one, unlike in Cars 2 and in Brave, which Brave was literally just Brother Bear, except this time by Pixar, and slightly better, but not by that much. But not only do you have the return of Mike and Sully, working well off each other. Billy Crystal and John Goodman just have that great connection together. They keep what we like about them in this movie as well. You do believe in their rivalry. You do believe that these two did start off as enemies at first and then became friends along the way. But I liked a lot of the new characters too. I love the designs of some of these characters as well. Again, this is where the creativity really is coming back into play here. You got these great characters like Art, voiced by Charlie Day, but it's Charlie Day. The guy can do anything and make it hilarious. And the Dean, played very well by Helen Mirren, who has this really cool design to it. And Mirren just creates that great voice that fits that character perfectly as well. A lot of the other characters are memorable too, but those are the two that really stuck out with me the most. A lot of them are really good, and I do really like what they were able to do with them overall. Like I said, the visuals overall are really impressive. You could tell they've upped the ante on the visual aspects of the movies in general here, because in original Monsters, Inc., it looked like something kind of out of Toy Story in general, but this time you could definitely tell the technology has advanced in the 12 years since then, and you can definitely sense that there is much more effort into the creativity of it. From the designs of the colleges, the pavement designs are very funny, are very well, impressively put together too. I like the overall story of it. I like the fact that this is coming from a first-time writer and directing team, and it's a good directorial effort from the overall. In fact, if I remember correctly, I think the person who directed this just recently directed Elemental, if I'm not mistaken. Is this a Peter Sohn movie? No, it's not. It's Dan Scanlon. But Dan Scanlon also did, I think he did Onward, if I'm not mistaken. Watch, I'll get this wrong too. No, he did Onward. Onward was actually really good. It was a very underrated Pixar film that unfortunately just came out around the time of COVID, but that we'll save that for 2020. But, you know, this one overall really was enjoyable. I like the fact that there was a lot more heart to it than most people expected it to be. Like, Mike's whole dream is essentially to just come in and be a scarer right off the get-go, and he realizes at some point down the road, like, he's just not worthy of doing so, but that doesn't mean he's completely useless overall, and eventually that leads him into what him and Sully would do in Monsters Incorporated. There are a couple of things I will say that are kind of nitpicky things in general here. First off, there's way too stacked of a cast in this movie in terms of the name recognition, because as I mentioned, Billy Crystal, John Goodman, Charlie Day, Helen Mirren, but you also have Alfred Molina, Sean Hayes, Dave Foley, Aubrey Plaza, Tyler Labine, Nathan Fillion, John Krasinski, Bonnie Hunt, Bill Hader, Bobby Moynihan, Julia Sweeney, Beth Bears. I mean, there's a lot of names in here, and it literally felt like a movie where Pixar just called any big star they knew out there that would want to do this and just say, hey, come on in and do this. It does get a little bit distracting overall here. And not to say that it's bad per se, but because there were too many recognizable names out of it, you would think Pixar would be kind of above just casting all these big stars in general, which more recently they have been lesser than that, because we've had Elio, we had Elemental, you know, those movies in general here. DreamWorks and 20th Century Fox can kind of get away with it because that's been kind of their norm since they started doing that with Ice Age and the Shrek films, but you kind of expect a little bit better with Pixar in general here. Hell, Fox did the same thing not too long ago with Epic, like casting these big stars, which really didn't feel necessary. Like, I always remember Steven Tyler as the Scroll Keeper, and it's just like, they could have just gone for a lesser-known actor, but no, we gotta go get the guy for Aerosmith just for shits and giggles. With that said, I do really like this movie a lot. I think they did I think this is actually a really good film overall, and it was a pretty good year for prequels from Disney, because remember, they did Oz the Great and Powerful, too. I really enjoy this movie a lot. I think it's very entertaining, a lot of good characters, a lot of good story, good laughs, impressive visuals. You can see the juices coming back into play in the creative aspect for Pixar here that was missing in Cars 2 and Brave. And this definitely is a movie that I highly recommend checking out. If you love Monsters, Inc., you're going to love the hell out of Monsters University. I like it a little bit better than Monsters, Inc., which I know is somewhat be blasphemous by some people, but hey, it made a great film overall, and it shows that, hey, Pixar is back and doing just as well as they've ever been, at least for now. But we'll see as we go along here. But with all that said, let's go ahead and get on to the other big blockbuster release this weekend, and that is Brad Pitt in World War Z.
President is dead. Europe still dark. What is this? I don't know. Life as we know it will come to an end in 90 days. It's on us to change that.
I'm scared.
Keep your eyes on Mommy and Daddy. Nancy, quiet.
How do we know they're coming?
They're coming. Ready?
To see what happens next, tweet hashtag World War Z.
Or you could just go and watch the movie. Please go and watch the movie. What the fuck was that at the end of that? But this is, of course, World War Z. This is, of course, based off of the Max Landis book of the same name, which is sort of like that, but I'll touch on that just a little bit here. But in the movie, you have a former United Nations investigator played by Brad Pitt, who him and his family seems content with their life, but then the world is plagued by a mysterious infection, turning whole human populations into rampaging, mindless zombies. After barely escaping the chaos, Lane is persuaded to go on a mission to investigate the disease. What follows is a perilous trek around the world where Lane must brave horrific dangers and long odds to find answers before human civilization falls. Now here's the kicker here. This is not based off of the Max Landis book, and that was one of the big things that I remember when the trailers were coming out for this, because you have a book with a lot of great material to it that screams out a really good movie, but the writers decided to just take the title and just go with an original story. Now, it doesn't hurt the overall feel of the movie, but I'll tell you, the marketing for the film overall was pretty rough. The trailers looked pretty bad all across the board, and yeah, the CG zombies, it's fun. It sounds like a cool aspect overall, but once you see it in the movie, it just looks ridiculous. I mean, the scene where they're putting a pyramid together to go over this wall, like, that should be badass, but it looks incredibly stupid. It looks really, really stupid overall. And those are major flaws that I have with the story. I'll just spell those right away. Brad Pitt's family is really annoying in this. I'm not going to be harsh on the kids because it's probably their first acting jobs overall, but I really don't like Morel Enos, who is from The Killing. It was a show on AMC, and everyone, you know, this was back when AMC was the hot shit to go to for original shows like Breaking Bad and Mad Men. She really annoyed me because of just how the acting is done here. Like, you could tell that that show in particular didn't really leave a lasting impact with me, because I watched it. I was never really a fan of it. I thought the acting was kind of bland and forgettable. And, you know, it's one of the worst things AMC had ever done at that point as far as a TV show goes. But my main problem with Pitt's Wife is that she has two of the worst lines in the entire movie. It's because the actress really isn't giving her all into it. But it's not that she's not giving her all to it. She's doing it way too hard. She's acting way too much harder than she needs to for a film like this, and putting more emphasis on the dramatic on this, because she thinks this is going to be Oscar caliber territory here. And it's just like, yeah, we know you're on The Killing, but there's a little thing called stretching your acting abilities, and then there's just overdoing it so you think you can get an Oscar out of it. It just didn't work with me overall. But like I said, the biggest problem with the movie is making the zombies computer generated. I think I can speak at everyone else when I say zombies are much more scarier when they're real, not computer generated. You need the best people from people like Weta Digital, Industrial Light and Magic to make the CG work here. They don't do that. It looks fake as hell. And it does affect the key scenes in the movie that should be presented. I mean, the stupidest scene in the trailer is the airplane scene, because of how cartoonishly bad the final bit of it is when the zombies or people are flying out of the open part of the airplane. Like, that should be a badass scene. But in the trailer, it just looks so terrible because of the fact that it's CG zombies. Like, which is why I was hoping they'd do a sequel for this, because put the effort into putting real zombie effects in there. Like, do The Walking Dead. Like, it'll be much more time consuming, but you know what? It'll look more realistic than this pile of garbage did. But with that said, there are good things about it. I do like a lot of good things. I mean, I think the rest of the cast overall is very good. Brad Pitt's very likable in this. He actually is doing a great job playing the leading role here. We get some good performances from Matthew Fox, James Badge Dale, and David Morse. The story overall is very well done. They do a pretty good job of giving us an entertaining story despite it not being adapted from the book. And it has a pretty good 3-act structure up until the final act. As you should remember from the film's production, the final act had to be consistently rewritten until the master of terrible third acts, Damon Lindelof, came into play. And it's just like, really, dude, you're going to do this again? This is like the 4th movie where you've come in here and you've ruined the third act of a movie that was working okay. I mean, again, this has been a really bad summer, but not just for sequels, but third acts in general. There are some really, really bad third acts that came out around this time period. With that said, though, it's bad, but it's not as bad as the other movies Lindelof helped to write with. It does manage to keep up the pace with the rest of the film, and it makes more logistical sense than some of the other movies that he's been involved in. Like, yeah, it's the worst, but it's not as bad as it could have been. It's not another Star Trek Into Darkness, pretty much. But my overall thoughts on it is, it's a good movie. It's a really good film. It definitely is not a perfect movie by any means necessary, but the acting is still pretty good. The action can be pretty good. The story does work very well, and it does keep your investment throughout the film. I just wanted the zombies to look better and look more realistic, and the family to be more likable. And I'm hoping that we were going to get that sequel, because they've been talking about doing a sequel since this came out, since this was a massive hit. You know, Juan Antonio Bayona from the Jurassic World movies came in, was going to direct at one point. Then they said they were going to get David Fincher to do it, and then he just dropped it all together. Which, okay, so we basically just have a zombie movie that has promise to it, but will never get the proper continuation that we were expecting for, so they can fix a lot of the problems with it. So, overall, good movie, not a great film overall. Definitely could have been a whole lot better. I'll just put it at that. So that is World War Z. Now let's go ahead and move on to the last one we have here, which I should have talked about 2 weeks ago, and that is Craig Robinson in the second of his 2 apocalypse comedies in June 2013, alongside Anna Kendrick. This is Rapturepalooza.
See, it all started with the Rapture.
Oh, it's so dumb.
What is that?
I think it's raining blood.
Oh, well, that's great. Now it's all smeared.
Ow! Dumbass! You little fucker! Dumbass! Hey, you! Yeah, you! Fuck you! Huh?
Why do we just let them insult us like this?
I know.
Yeah, walk away, pussy! Big apple of the rain squad!
Whatever.
I will destroy you. Just one joint, man.
Fuck, fine. Here you go.
Thanks, man.
I mean, the trailer does have a lot of good funny aspects to it, like the fact that everything in this world is a kind of an asshole. The bugs, the crows, the zombies. Like, that's a fun concept overall. Concept, however, doesn't equate to a good movie if the script isn't great either. But you have two teams played by Anna Kendrick and John Francis Daly who battled their way through a religious apocalypse on a mission to defeat the Antichrist, played by Craig Robinson. And right off the bat, you can tell it's kind of ripping off This Is the End. And sure enough, like I said, This Is the End was in theaters around that time. But unlike most rip-off movies, this is not released by the Asylum and actually got decent reviews. So, I mean, I watched it. I got it at a Walmart when it was on sale and when it came out, and it's all right. It's not a great movie. It is certainly not as bad as This Is the End. It's not as much of a ripoff as This Is the End as you might think. It's not celebrities getting stuck in the middle of the apocalypse. It's a much different story altogether. I think what helps it is the script by Chris Matheson, who wrote Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. It does a good job of making us like these characters overall. You like Kendrick and Daly as this couple, but you also want to see them succeed in trying to survive, and you like the assholery of Craig Robinson's Antichrist character. There's a lot of good people in here. Rob Corddry, John Michael Higgins, Anna Gasteyer, Thomas Lennon, Ken Jeong, Rob Hubble. And it's only about 85 minutes long, so it's paced enough where it never feels like it's wasting your time. It's giving you exactly what you want for here. The comedy mostly comes from the small little things there. We saw a little bit from there, you know, a little bit from the trailer there. The human characters, you know, the birds talking shit to the human characters, raining blood. You know, there's a great character where Francis Daly shoots down Jesus on a horse. Like, not all the jokes work, but there's a couple in here that do overall make me laugh pretty hard. It's all the smaller ones here and there. And there really isn't any big laugh-out-loud moments in there, but it does get some of those little jokes that, you know, that do work overall. The special effects are not that great, but you can tell it's a much smaller movie compared to This Is the End. But, yeah, overall, it's an okay movie. It's not a great movie by any means necessary. Like, in a summer where we had apocalyptic comedies like This Is the End, and then later we'll have The World's End, yeah, this one's not even going to compete for that. It's not anywhere close to that. But for a direct-to-video movie, a direct-to-DVD movie on the same veins as something like Gary the Tennis Coach or Happy Thank You More Please, which is how I saw them, direct-to-DVD, but you might actually find a lot to admire about it. There is good things about it. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too amazing, but it's a good movie overall. Not great, not bad, just good. So that's my thoughts on Rapture Palooza. If it comes on cable anytime soon or is available to rent, I think definitely check it out.
Drugs, black market, and prostitution. You'll be working with a new partner.
Watch me, maybe you'll learn something. Surprise! How many porns have been made on this couch? It is crucial that we catch these guys. It's also crucial that you stop wearing this stupid barrette. Just move on.
DEA, drop it!
What the hell is that?
I'm an albino, so I look like a bad guy.
No, that's not. It's not what we were. The heat. Put it there. You just make it odd.
Radar.
And welcome to Time About the Movies. No intro this week because we only got 2 movies here. We're wrapping up June 2013 on June 28th with 2 not-so-spectacular movies, but I know what you're thinking. The Heat was a critically acclaimed comedy when it came out. It was a movie that was actually one of the biggest hits of the summer. How could someone like me not like it? I'm about to tell you. Sarah Ashburn, played by Sandra Bullock, is an FBI agent who's extremely ambitious and has her eye on a promotion, but she doesn't get along with her co-workers. She's sent to Boston to uncover the identity of an elusive drug lord named Mr. Lawson by tracking down his proxy, Rosas, and is told that she has a good shot at a promotion if she finds Lawson. When she arrives in Boston, she learns that Lawson has been eliminating his competition and taking over their operations. She learns that Rojas is in Boston PD custody, and goes to see him to ask him what he knows about Lawson, but is warned that the cop who arrested Rojas, Sandra Mullins, played by Melissa McCarthy, is very territorial, and she's not exactly sociable. When the two meet, they don't get along. When Mullins learns why Ashburn is in Boston, she decides to find Lawson herself. Ashburn is told by her boss to work with Mullins, but it won't be easy because Ashburn does things by the book, while Mullins does things her own way. Gee, haven't heard that done before, but this time we got two women doing it, because that's never happened before in a movie, ignoring that 1980s movie Feds with Ellen Barkin and Mary Gross. Yeah, that was a movie that happened that nobody saw, but yeah, this is supposed to be the first time this whole groundbreaking thing has ever happened, and yeah, let me just tell you right now, this is not a good movie. This is a really lazy film. But of the 3 Melissa McCarthy movies that I saw that year, Identity Thief, Hangover Part 3. This was the best one. But then again, that's not really saying a whole lot. I mean, seriously, the only memorable thing about the movie that I'll give it credit for is Sandra Bullock and Melissa McCarthy do work off each other very well. And it is fun to watch Sandra Bullock getting smacked around a little bit here, mostly because of how much torture most of her films are to watch. You watch stuff like All About Steve or 2 Weeks Notice, and try to tell me that that's a woman I want to be around. But like I said, I don't hate Sandra Bullock overall. She's made some good movies: the Speed films, Crash, The Blind Side, The Proposal, Miss Congeniality. But most of her films in general have been kind of bland overall. But other than that, though, there's only one thing that made me laugh about it. That was the fact that Melissa McCarthy's fridge is literally filled with weapons and guns. When I saw that for the first time, I actually laughed out loud pretty hard at that. I mean, that was actually really, really funny. A really funny, clever gag that they did with that. But other than that, though, there's nothing about this movie that's that clever or funny. We've seen this stuff before done so many times in the past already in other buddy cop movies. In fact, like I said, the whole idea of two female cops working together is not a new thing, because that happened, would have been 15 years ago, I think? 25 years ago, because 88, 2013, I think, because Feds came out in 88, if I remember correctly, but yeah. This is a movie this is a tired formula that's been done before. There really isn't anything new about it that makes it anything unique or stand out in a way, shape, or form. But to its credit, I guess it's finally good to see Melissa McCarthy starring in a movie that doesn't consistently make her being obese the joke of the entire movie. I mean, Identity Thief and Hangover Part 3 were terrible at that. But at least with this one, there was at least I'll give it this. There was at least a conceited effort to try. I just don't think it really worked out in the end. I thought the comedy overall wasn't that great. The villain isn't seen until the very end of the movie. The motivations for his plans make no sense whatsoever. The characters are bland and forgettable. And it wastes a really good cast they have in here. You see Marlon Wayans in there. Michael Rappaport is in there. Caitlin Olsen from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia is in here. There's a whole running gag in general here where the idea of it is very funny, having McCarthy's family literally hate her because she arrested her brother, and it's just like they hate the fact that she's a cop and all that. But I'll explain why that's not a good thing either. The biggest problems with the movie I had is that it's one of those movies that's trying way too hard to be raunchy for the sake of being raunchy by throwing in way too many F-bombs. And Sandra Bullock finally snapping, and the way she just uses the F-word in this is just so terrible. To say the words fuck and shit really are not that hard to do, but Sandra Bullock literally makes it seem like it's the most it's never been once heard out of her mouth before this point. It's just kind of like, the way she said it is so cringeworthy. It's just like, just say it! It's not that hard to say. Fuck, shit, there. I made your job easier. Now let's tackle something every year like world hunger. But I digress. Let's go back to what I said before about McCarthy's family being she doesn't like her family doesn't like her because she arrested her brother and because she's a cop and all that. Now that could be funny, but they take it way too mean-spiritedly for no reason whatsoever. I mean, the family is so harsh on her because she arrested her brother. And yeah, I get it. I get it. You don't want to do that because that's your family. You don't want to arrest somebody like that. But you know what? The law is the law, and you have to do that. I know the family's being portrayed as not being too bright, but they have no excuse to be that pissed off at her because she was doing her job. It's called being honest to your job. And you know what? In a world where we have so many crooked cops taking over, yeah, the fact that she did that, I give her a lot of credit for that. That's a really hard thing to do. And yeah, there's a good cast involved in here. I didn't even mention Demian Bichir. I didn't mention Michael McDonald, Jane Curtin, Tom Wilson. I mean, they're good people, but they're just given stereotype roles to work with here. And like I said, the villain's big reveal is so fucking stupid. It's extremely predictable and stupid at the same time. Predictable because you can easily tell who the real bad guy is because they make it seem like oh, we're being smart by making it seem like it's this guy when we know it's this other guy here. You're not being smart about this, and incredibly stupid because his revenge on the heroes is so ridiculous. And I'm sorry to say this for you people out there who hate this word, but it's fucking retarded. Especially when you see how easy it was to defeat him. This movie tried to be something completely different and new, but it just ends up pulling the same crap we've seen done before, except with Bullock and McCarthy in it. And like I said, they're the two strongest parts of the movie, but other than that, though, I really don't get why people like this movie at all. This is a terrible film. It's forgettable. It's boring. I've never had the urge to watch it again. And quite frankly, I don't want to watch it again because I just don't think it'll be as funny as people make it out to be. Plus, I know Paul Feig's done a lot of other better movies. Some that actually people hate, but yeah, I'm sorry. Ghostbusters 2016 was not terrible. Sorry. And I just lost a bunch of my audience on that one, so sorry. Like I said, okay. I've kind of lost how I wanted to end this, so bottom line, The Heat, I didn't like it. Everybody else did, not me, so. But at least we can all agree that this last movie here is absolutely terrible. Roland Emmerich is back once again for the second Die Hard in the White House movie of 2013, White House Down.
This is John Cale. I'm with the president.
They've taken the building and they're holding hostages.
You ready? There's only one way to find out.
White House Down. Rated PG-13.
Seriously, Roland Emmerich, what the hell happened in your childhood that you want to keep blowing up the White House and all these Washington landmarks? I mean, did somebody sexually molest you when you were on a field trip back in the day? Like, were you raped somewhere or something like that? Did you do something that was illegal and is illegal in every state? I mean, what did you do in Washington D.C. that you have get a boner every time you want to blow something up there? Because my God, this is like the third or fourth movie where he's done this, but. In this movie, you have a divorced U.S. Capitol police officer, played by Channing Tatum, who attempts to rescue both his daughter, played by Joey King, and the President of the United States, played by Jamie Foxx, when a destructive terrorist assault occurs in the White House. Now, you would think, with a major studio behind this one, a director who, you know, as bad as his movies can be, he's a known, relative, reliable name, written by James Vanderbilt, who has written a ton of movies before Spider-Man 2, for an example. But he also has a cast that includes Channing Tatum, Jamie Foxx, Maggie Gyllenhaal, Jason Clarke, James Woods, Richard Jenkins. Like, you would think that movie would be a far superior movie than the other movie that came out earlier in the year, Olympus Has Fallen. And yet, somehow, Olympus Has Fallen was the much better movie because they took more creative chances with it, and they made a much more fun movie that didn't rely on blowing everything up for just for the sake of blowing it up. Olympus Has Fallen had a much smaller budget than this does. This has a $150 million budget. You know what Olympus Has Fallen's budget was? Half that, $70 million. And, okay, there's more recognizable names in here, too. Gerard Butler, Aaron Eckhart, Morgan Freeman, Angela Bassett in that movie. But that one worked because the people who made that movie clearly had a fun idea to work with here, and they were able to do everything that White House Down couldn't do with a much smaller budget. This is just a movie that's trying to cover itself up as this big, heavy, intense action movie when it's a cheap, lazy comedy when you really look at it. And look, Channing Tatum and Jamie Foxx seem like the perfect pair for a buddy movie like this in general, but it just doesn't work, man. This is a lousy movie that just fails on so many levels because the story is all over the place. The villain is pretty lazy overall, and there's nothing about this movie that just makes it work whatsoever. And like I said, the better Die Hard of the White House movie was Olympus Has Fallen. That was the much better film, but this one gets too ridiculous for its own good. Even people who love Roland Emmerich and went to this movie felt like they were underwhelmed by what they saw here. Yeah, this thing is fucking terrible, and just proof that Roland Emmerich clearly has lost his way at this point because, I mean, it's weird because he makes a movie that's much smaller and anonymous that you think, okay, he's going back to his roots here. He's going back to making smaller films to get people to realize that, hey, I can do anything but these big projects here. And yet nobody goes to see that movie, and then they make this film, and yeah, it's just a terrible, terrible movie, man. This is a horrible film, a lackluster script, wasting a really good cast. And yeah, if you want to watch the better Die Hard in the White House movie, go back and watch Olympus Has Fallen. That's the better movie. This is just pure garbage, and proof that Roland Emmerich clearly has lost his way and is never coming back because the movies he's made after this are some of the worst things he's ever made. So yeah, that's my thoughts on White House Down. Not a very good film. Just watch Olympus Has Fallen. It's much better.